Hello and welcome to the 22nd developer diary for Project Caesar. Now, number 22 is somewhat infamous in Paradox right now. The 22nd dev diary for Victoria 3 was titled The Concept of War, and it basically heralded a massive split within the community where quite a lot of people decided to nope out of the game at that point. Warfare was not to their liking. They changed it too drastically from the rest of what Paradox had on offer, and yeah, it was a very big split in the community. Obviously, there were some people who liked it, stuck around, whatever, but there was a dramatic shift in the amount of people who gave a damn about Victoria 3 after that. The viewing numbers for Dev Diaries kind of prove that. So when we learned last week that Dev Diary 22 was going to be about warfare, about how combat works, well, it could be construed as a little bit trolly by Johan, but we will have a look, of course, and see what we're gonna get. Hopefully, from my perspective, nothing like what we're getting in Victoria 3 for sure. But yeah, artwork. These lovely chaps are going to go on a little bit of a charge. I'm interested in just who these guys actually are. Top hats with whatever this kind of costume is, like it's cavalry sabers. Like what is this? Shields as well. Who is this? What period is this? I'm very curious to know. If you actually, there we go. We can get our our shilling for comments out of the way early. If you know who this is, not specifically giving me a name. Obviously, his name is Bob. But if you know, like, what period this is supposed to be, where people are wielding, wooden shields, wearing top hats, with this kind of get-up, with cavalry sabers, I would love to know. But anyway, if you want to stay up to date with everything to do with Project Caesar, how about you, subscribe to the channel? That would be pretty awesome. You stay up to date, I get a sub. It's a win-win. Let us get into Tinto Talks number 22. Happy Wednesday. We're going to give you fun information about the top secret Project Caesar. Today we'll talk a little bit more about how armies work and take a look at how combat works. I'd say the entire unit and combat system is based on the mechanics of the EU series, but we've taken influences on combat and organization of armies from March of the Eagles, ideas of the connection between regiments and pops from Victoria 2, and logistics and automation from Imperator to create what we believe is the best of all systems. Alright, influence on combat and organization from March of the Eagles is very intriguing. I didn't play any of March of the Eagles. I don't even think I own the game, but I have watched a little bit of it. So yeah, that's interesting to me. Connection between regiments and pops from Victoria, that worked really well in Vicky 2 for sure. Logistics from Imperator, so having armies carry around their own food supplies, etc. To create what we believe is the best of all systems does sound pretty amazing. Now, I'm assuming you all read Tinto Talks 11, where we talked about different types of regiments like levies, mercenaries, and regulars, and discussed how manpower worked. If you've not read it, go to there. I also did a video on it. You can go watch it or go read here. I'm not going to rehash over it. So, regiments can only be recruited in any location you have built the infrastructure to allow recruitment in. So you can't just spam out units regardless, just anywhere. You need to have the recruitment building in. Levies can be raised in any province, capital, and mercenaries in any capital, city, or town. While regular regiments go as low as 100 men at the start of the game, levies, which fight much less efficiently, can be organised in up to 1,000 per regiment from the start, with the Chinese even having levy regiments of 1,500 at the start. I do really like the idea of regiment size, the individual unit block, being so, like, non-standard. It's not EU4 where everything from the start to the end of the game is just, one regiment, 1,000 men. Like, I think this is really cool. Why does it work like this? Well, calling up a levy as Poland and get 11,000 men, but 110 regiments is a bit too much. But you can live with it. Delhi, Mamluks, and others with 700 regiments are rather too much, and as usual, Yuan breaks everything. Where even the low control and wrong culture, calling up a levy and being forced to handle 1,800 plus regiments is a bit too much for most of us human beings. That is entirely fair. So, getting 1,500 men in each regiment at the start. Although this does maybe make it somewhat of an insight into what we're actually getting. Like, Yuan might be able to call up about. Surely we're not going to get 180,000 men armies as Yuan at the start of the game. Maybe we are. But if this system brings the warfare to more historical numbers, I think that's a really cool thing. I think that's kind of awesome. Before we go into how combat itself will work, when two armies that are hostile to each other are present in the same location, there are some things that will need to be explained. As in many other games, you have as much control over your armies as you want to, and you can move them around and reorganize them to your heart's content. Great stuff, obviously. I am a micro enjoyer, and by micro I mean I want the ability to click on an army, click on a location on the map, and see my little man march over to that place and stay there. That is the level of control I want over my armies, for sure. With the granularity of the map, though, we could no longer use days as the smallest tick. We have to resort to hours as the time. Okay, alright. We have to resort to hours as the time tick. The day ticks from 1800 to 1900 every day, and the remaining hours are skipped over, representing the fact that armies need to rest and not always on the move. So maybe we worried that the game will be slower and perform worse. Well, when you fight a war and you care about it, you probably play at a slower speed, but at max speed, the game should be fast as EU4 or Imperator. Okay. So the day ticks from 1800 to 1900 every day. So we're getting... Are we seriously going to be getting 11 ticks per day? Is this accurate? Is this what I'm thinking here? Are we getting 11 ticks per day? That would be wild. That would be... Especially 11. Okay. That's 11 per day. What? 11 ticks per day? Huh. We have something here we'll only tease about today and we'll talk about in future Tinto talks. A powerful objective system that uses the same AI components as the AI itself uses. So giving objectives to your armies? Interesting, maybe? Okay. I need to know more. No, I'm sorry. I need to know more about the 11 ticks per day. What a strange number. Also, 11 ticks per day. We are... This brings total ticks for the entire game. This brings EU5 way further than any other Paradox game. By a long way. And by ticks per game, I mean, 1444 to 1821. If you count the amount of days, that is, it's 1 tick per day. The entire ticks per game is the amount of days between 11th of November, 1444 to the, I think it's like the 29th of January, or like the end of January, 1821. I don't think it ends on January 1st. I think it ends on like the 31st. But whatever. That's the amount of ticks per game in Victoria 3. The game runs for 100 years, but there are 4 ticks per day. So it's 400 years worth, which brings it to around about the same as EU4. But if we are going to be getting 11 ticks per day in a 500-year-long game, that is so... That's a lot. That game is a lot bigger. That game is a lot longer in terms of total amount of ticks per game. I feel like this needs a little bit more explanation. Okay, alright, okay. 11 ticks per day. This is definitely the biggest Paradox game there is. Bar none. For sure. Anyway, okay, let us move on. We'll probably go back to that to say the term, the phrase 11 ticks per day again at some point. But for now, we'll move on. An army is a group of regiments that's organized as a single entity. And these can be led by a character who may or may not have traits for being a general. If they don't have a trait, they may get one after a large battle. The abilities of the character have a lot of impact on the military aspects, and each attribute has at least 3 different benefits. Oh, okay, alright. So of course we have an admin, dip, and mill stat for every single character, and they're all going to affect things. So the admin ability of a character affects their maintenance, the siege ability, the possible frontage. Okay, so think the combat width, basically, or engagement width in navies is probably a bit more of a correlation, because, if you have 36 combat width on an army and your enemy only has 34, the combat width of the battle is 36, and your enemy can also fill out those extra 2 slots. So, whereas that's not the case in naval battles. So, possible frontage, I feel like this is going to be a very, very, very important stat. Correct section chance. Okay, we don't know what that is. All right. Diplo gives army morale. Charismatic leaders able to make their armies more fight more. They're more engaged in the idea of fighting the enemy. Makes sense. Army initiative. No idea what initiative does. And they consume less food. Okay. And then military ability is army move speed, discipline, and combat speed. We also don't know what combat speed does. This is... Oh, that's so impactful. 49 is 11.27 discipline, which makes me... 100, it's like... What? 22.4 or something? It's kind of interesting. But these are pretty, low stats, and you're getting these modifiers, so that's kind of crazy, honestly. Always better to have a commander than not. Yes, no, definitely see that. The regiments themselves can be deployed to one of 4 parts of an army. Wait, there is no fire pips, there's no shock pips. No fire pips, no shock pips. That's, okay, so combat itself is going to work differently. Right. The regiments themselves can be deployed to one of 4 parts of an army. They could be at the center, they could be on the left flank, they could be on the right flank, or they could be in the reserves. Yo, CK3 flanks? No, fuck CK3. CK2 flanks? What? That is very, very cool. That is very cool. While you can micromanage your army in detail, there are also ways to autobalance your armies. Wait a minute. What about artillery? Are we not going to have a back row? Are my artillery going to have to be on the front row, like frontline plebeians? That's crazy. It's crazy talk. While you can micromanage your army in detail, there are also ways to autobalance your armies. We often refer to one of these 4 parts as a section or as a common word. I mean, I can use it as a section. That's fine. So we have here the formation and defensive stance. I don't know. Okay. But there are 1,000 men in... I'm not going to pronounce you. What are these? What are these? What is this? What is this? What is all of this? Okay. It's very work in progress UI, but these are the feudal levies of Poland. Okay. What does it mean, though? So how does combat work? There's a lot of similarities here with EU4, but we only have 1 type of main phase. But the dice roll is re-rolled as frequently as that game, so once every 2 days. The battle starts with the bombard phase, where any unit that can bombard, okay, so backline cannons, basically only artillery units, will be able to fire on the opposing army. The artillery will be able to damage units in the opposing section, so your left flank fires on the enemy's right flank, etc. If there are no units in the opposing section, it can fire at any sector that is not the reserves. In the main... Okay, alright, so artillery seem to be a addition to an army that isn't going to be actually fighting on the front lines. Like, we have a phase before combat where your artillery will fire, and then we're going to go into main phase combat. Are we going to then go... Are artillery at that point not useful? Is that what we're seeing here? Or are we going to go back to bombarding at some point during a battle? That is... Okay. Main phase combat works like this. Each section tries to get as many units to engage as their maximum frontage allows. Most of the time, every regiment has the same frontage value. They'll attack their opposing section until there are no possible units left there, and then we will hit enemies in the closest section. So you roll the left flank, then you roll into the center. Makes sense. This is very CK2 build, and I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of cool. Only engaged regiments will fight in the current round of combat. Okay, so we do have rounds of combat. And a regiment will try to fight another engaged regiment in that opposing section first. If it's not in the opposing section, attack any other section. Where a unit with good flanking ability can do extra damage. If there's no opposing unit engaged, they will damage the morale of all regiments in that section. Okay. Okay. So how does a regiment engage then? Well, at each check, they roll a dice and check against their initiative. And if they succeed, they become engaged. The chance increases for every hour of combat. Will make you want to have every section of your army to have units that can engage quickly to allow your heavy hitters enough time to engage. May not always be an option, especially in the early game when your selection of units is rather low. So, in battle, not every unit in your army is going to be engaging. Sometimes... they're going to roll low on their initiative and not be taking part. That's actually kind of cool. That is kind of cool, because if you think, if you've watched any, Epic History TV or Kings and Generals, etc., if you're looking at battles of this period, it's not a case of every unit goes in and they have just one huge line across the front and everyone on that line is engaged at all times until they run away. That's just not what happens. There are parts of the front of part of the army that is engaged while another part is maneuvering around and etc. So this is something that I think is very much... Wait, what if... So if you fail your initiative and your enemy does not fail their initiative, there's no opposing unit engaged, they will damage the morale of regiments in that section. So if you fail your initiative and your enemy succeeds, your morale gets hurt, but your armies, the troops in it don't. You don't lose men, you just lose morale. Okay. Okay, so high initiative is probably going to be something very good. You don't want to be failing that initiative roll. Okay. Increase of every hour of combat. Makes sense. Makes you want to have every section of your army to have units that can engage quickly, so high initiative. Allow your heavy hitters enough time to engage. Every regiment, even those in the reserves, have a ticking penalty in morale every hour of battle, so that's the same as we have in EU4. Morale damage on reserves is basically painful, and if you didn't have that, then you could just put every single unit you have into 1 giga battle and just leave them there, taking no attrition while they're in a battle, but also taking no morale damage, so you're just waiting for the meat grinder to end. So morale damage to reserves is a good thing, so it's good that it's back. A regiment that gets too low morale will break and leave their section until the end of combat and will be in the broken unit section. Fair enough. If there's not enough regiments in a section to cover the frontage, there will be a chance for units in the reserve to reinforce the section. A chance, so it's not guaranteed. Only enough units for the possible frontage of the battle attempts to reinforce each hour, so having huge doom stacks has no advantage. I would say there would be an advantage, as you would have like more potential to have armies move forward. Like yeah, especially if it is a chance-based thing. But yeah, no, this is basically the same as in EU4, where having, you know, lots more than is capable of being engaged in the front line is not an advantage if your army is just getting beaten, right? If because your enemy, you can't do damage with your reserves to your enemy, so yeah, slow feeding in of troops into a battle is the way to go in E4. It seems like we might be getting that back again, which I'm kind of fine with. Feeding, you know, morale feeding a battle is a big part of skill expression in EU4 multiplayer, so I'm not unhappy to see that return. The broken unit section are the regiments that have been routed in the current battle. They'll no longer participate in the battle at all, even if the regiments are still part of an army that is engaged. Same as EU4, that's not a problem. A battle is over when one side has no regiments in their 3 front sections or an army retreats due to no morale or a manual order to retreat. Okay, so... Ooh, have we got characters? Have we got characters in here? Also, this UI does absolutely nothing for me. I don't like what I'm seeing here in a pure UI sense. When you compare it to when you compare it to what EU4 has, this doesn't look good. It doesn't look as good. But these are, I guess, these will be like men left. I don't think they're going to be regiments. Otherwise, this is a very big late game battle. 3, 4, and 4. I don't know if it is characters that are on each flank. That's interesting. Certainly, I hope this gets talked about. Could it be 3 reserves? And those reserves can feed in? Maybe. But yeah, this UI, it's not doing it for me. Pretty decent. I'm not sure it'll win against 11,000 Polish levies. Okay, so these are just individual men then. So we're looking at like a little over, 1,100 or so. Some important new attributes to think about for units. Combat speed. How quickly units can move up to the reserve section to fill holes in another section. Okay. Frontage. There is a limited amount of regiments that fight from each section. Topology and vegetation can reduce this. Good. I like that. Some units may require more or less frontage. Start of the game, a regular 100-man sized regiment uses the same frontage as a full 3,600 men in the Napoleonic era. Done to scale the numbers to feel properly historical while still getting good gameplay. I like that a lot, actually. And then initiative. How quickly a unit can engage as soon as combat starts. Lighter units have higher initiative. Alright. Logistics and sieges next. Cool. Love to see that. God, this is dense. This is so dense. This is a lot of information. This is a heck of a lot of information. So what are we thinking here? Like, I think there's a lot here that I like the idea of. Obviously, let's get this out of the way real quick. 11 ticks per day. What the fuck? 11 ticks per day. I am very confused. But okay. Like, if you're splitting up your day into little blocks, more ticks per day. That's a great idea. I love the idea of more ticks per day. But 11 ticks per day. Like, I would make it 12 ticks per day. Lovely, nice round number. Very, very beautiful. I love the number. 12, gorgeous number. 10, get that base 10 energy. Split the difference on 11. Makes no one happy. Just gonna say that. 11, it's weird. It makes me feel weird. But battles themselves. I love the fact that battles are no longer full enemy line, full, friendly line, everyone engages, right? Obviously, then there's reserves that filter in. Love that that's no longer a thing. What I am confused about here, bombard phase. Does this mean that after the bombard phase, cannons play no role in a battle? That is how it reads, but I don't like that if that is how that is. Because you go look at, again, Epic History TV did a whole thing about Napoleon and all of his battles, and artillery during a battle, they don't stop firing, unless, you don't want to fire into your own men, but they don't, they could fire at a unengaged section, for example, Do bombards fit in a section that is not, left, middle, front? No. Doesn't look like it. And I don't think these guys here are artillery. Also, what are these guys? We have no information about what these dudes are. These dudes are completely unknown. Like, are they characters? They feel like characters. Let me just go back to the previous dev diary. Just an moment. No, not that one. The previous one before that. It's not a character. It is a symbol. It's not an actual character. It is a symbol, like it is an icon. It is an icon. So, what are we seeing here? Also, how do you choose what? Okay, this is a formation. That symbol there is a formation. So we're looking here, that's a formation with 248 men in it. Is a formation multiple units? Probably not. Maybe? Maybe. And you can choose different actions with them. Okay. What is this symbol? Obviously, it's a shield. Duh. What can we do something? Is this shield selected and the star is not? What does the star mean? What does the sword with the shock symbol mean? What do the three letters mean? Not letters. They're NATO unit counters. What do these all mean? This needed to be explained. I feel like this absolutely needed to be explained. And it wasn't. I don't know what this means. I need to know what this means. Sorting by morale, I guess? Sorting A to Z. But that would be this second column. Maybe this shock column is over here. These things, these pips. What are these pips? I don't know what these pips are. Gold in the rear, silver all three, gold at the front. This means nothing right now. We have no idea. 1,000 men, that makes sense. No idea what any of this is. This needed to be explained, I feel. Bombard phase. Does it happen more than once per battle? Because if it only happens once per battle, and I have really good artillery, I'm going to want to engage the enemy, do my bombard phase, win a couple, do a little bit of battling, and then retreat, right? Because I want to have another battle where I can have another bombard phase. Cannons being hit and run type units, I'm not sure I vibe with that. I like the idea of initiative. That is cool. I think that is very, very cool. I feel like we're getting information about, the armies and the reserves go to the front if there's no one in the front, as long as they have the, the speed, the combat speed to go there. That's fine. That isn't really that like revolutionary. Broken units, nothing there was revolutionary. But like this wasn't mentioned. What are these dudes? 3, 4, and 4. What are these dudes? Reserves and broken units. Where? Why is this bar almost filled up, but not quite? This army should not be engaged in combat, right? If this army is engaged in combat right now, this is definitely a failure of the UI. Because I can't see my enemy here. If this is me clicking on an army and looking at, say this could be like in the actions. Maybe this could be in the actions area. But then you would see actions at the top, so I don't know. I would imagine if these dudes were bombarding, then they would use this symbol here. There is a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions. Let me just show dev responses. I do this on Sundays, but I need to know, like, right now. This is just confirming ticks per day, yeah. Artificial province limit, don't care. Will it be seasonal, blah, blah, no. Can use different leaders on flanks and reserves, like March of the Eagles. No, 1 leader per army. What happens when you use force march? Possibility to use different tactics. So it's only 1 leader per army. Sub-leaders had quite a lot more characters to the game. So those guys in the unit panel were not characters. Tactics, something you had in Imperator, and after 5 iterations it sucked. I agree. This doesn't answer the questions. Discipline works similar to EU4 in that case. Having a good commander would be really crucial for winning battles. I mean, no shit. But yeah, all the stats look to be very important. I love that. Yeah, that's something I want to point out as well. Absolutely adore the fact that, you know, all 3 stats matter for commanders. That is awesome. Love that. Can units gain experience? Yes. Okay. How long does the average battle last? About 20% less ticks right now than EU4. This means nothing. This means absolutely nothing. Because depending on what kind of game you're playing, the battle length variance is huge, right? You can have some battles that last very long, some battles that last very short. 20% less than what exactly? 20% less than what I experience in multiplayer? Still quite long. 20% less than, you know, 1 army versus 1 army with no reinforcements in 1500 in EU4 again in single player. That's very different. That is very, very different. Will leap days? Maybe. Oh, okay, fair enough. That's interesting. Longest time span of any Paradox game and hours of smallest ticks. There should be a free DLC as a reward for someone that reaches the end date. It's funny. Yeah, but 500 years times, you know, 11 is wild. You said previously battles would be more decisive. Any idea how? More War Scoffing battles, I like that. Less cap on War Scoffing battles, I like that. Dead soldiers, dead people, like that. Does discipline and military tactics work like in EU4? The major differences regarding the impact on the battle, pretty much the same. Okay, so that's good. How do stack wipes work? Reinforcing armies end up with the regiments in the reserve box. The chance of actually joining the battle has another impact first as well. Okay. That's the same. Reinforcing armies have a penalty to initiative. No, but reinforcing armies go in the reserves box and then they might not join the battle instantly if their, you know, combat speed is low. So that's sort of the same. You know, you're going to be losing that, you know, morale from reserves. Summarize, you get 3 sections. Hoi 4 reinforcing a combat. Okay, I didn't know that's how Hoi 4 worked. Assume damage dealing related to dice rolling. Okay. I need to know. Okay, we don't... Experience don't care. Horse archers have 5 to initiative, combat power. Combat power on grassland space vegetation. I like that. And it's 100 men more than other enemy cavalry, so it opens up. Okay. Cav flanking ability be useful. In E4 it's not as useful. I mean, it kind of can be. Yeah, I suppose. He has some ideas on how to make it more useful. Okay. Drain size for levies automatically adjust. They merge together as they get recruited into standard regiment sizes if they can fill them. Whatever. Is the 344 the number of regiments and the 2485? Okay, the number of men. Okay, all right. We have the answer. We have the answer. This is 248 men organized into 3 regiments. 545 organized into 4 regiments. 399 organized into 4 regiments. The people who have already written comments explaining what this is, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for sure. But, you know, we have the answer now. Okay, fair enough. That's good to know. That is good information. Could it be moddable? More than one lead arm? Why would you want that? So any sort of visual on how these sections work in the game? Yes, but the UI is boxed at the moment. Okay, so getting that improved is on the way. If the daylight hour ticks in PC are global while the nighttime hours are skipped, that means that the same time of day across the entire world. Does this mean Tinto secretly thinks the Earth is flat? It's a cylinder. I mean, that's just funny, but yeah, no. If we're getting ticks on the hour, then that does mean everyone uses the same daylight. Not only has daylight savings time been completely annexed and murdered, we have also removed time zones. Time zones. We have evolved past the need for the humble time zone. Also, that music is a little bit too loud. I apologize. Sorry about that. Combat speed shared between units, or some considered faster. They all have different speeds. Appoint commander and have them lead puppet states after successful. That's kind of funny. You can drill. Okay, it's an action you can lock from in advance. Fair enough. Create a new subject state from any province you own. Okay, so that's not really a question about what we're seeing. All right. Okay. Thoughts. Final thoughts. This is an evolution. EU4's combat of combat width, modifiers, dice rolls. It was functional. It worked. I enjoy it. This seems like an evolution of that idea. If you can get the vibe, if you can get the... This UI is bad. This UI is bad. I don't like what I'm seeing here for this. But it's giga frickin' work in progress, right? I don't think this is what it's going to look like on release. I really don't think so, and I hope not. But this does seem like an evolution, and there is more to know about. There's more to engage with. There's more there in combat, and I think that's good. I think that's awesome. I love the idea that, you know, a regiment is not necessarily just 1,000 men. I think that's fantastic. I love the idea that it changes over time. I love the idea that levies at the start of the game will be larger than, you know, professional armies just based on the amount of men in a regiment. I love that. I think that's great. I think that's amazing. 11 ticks per day, though. 11 ticks per day? What?